is up, everyone? It is Matt Record here with IDP Plus. Going to talk to you about some team defenses. Yes, I know IDP Plus, we prioritize individual defensive players, but there are those of you out there that are still in leagues that you have to start a team defense, and we're not forgetting about you. So let's get to the team defenses. All right, so team defenses. Let's set the scene in terms of scoring. If you're still doing team defenses, you're probably using the basic scoring, which works like this. Your team starts with 10 points total, your defense does, and then you lose points when your defense gives up points and gives up yards. Yeah, when your defense does poorly in real life, it does not do well for you fantasy-wise. You earn points with the splash plays, your interceptions, your sacks, your fumble recoveries. If any of those things happen and it's returned for a touchdown, you get points for that. Special teams, typically, the touchdowns there. So you want a defense that can generate a lot of splash plays and that will not give up a lot of points. So pretty straightforward, but it's a little complicated here. So we are going to talk about ESPN's top 10 rankings just as a starting point to get the conversation going. So coming in at number one, their top-ranked redraft defense would be the Texans defense out of Houston. So in 2024, they were fifth. They finished fifth. In terms of key additions, they added C.J. Gardner-Johnson, which is huge, and they lost Blake Cashman. But really, this defense is pretty dang solid, starting with Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter up front. Talk about being able to generate a lot of splash plays. Henry 2-0-2-0 and Azeez Al-Shaair and EJ Speed there on the linebacker. They're really good linebackers that should limit opponents' rushing capabilities. And then, pairing CJ Gardner-Johnson with Derek Stingley there at the cornerback positions or in the defensive back with Jalen, I always say his name wrong, Petrie. Perusing the secondary. It's just all in all a really solid defense from a fantasy perspective. You're going to generate a lot of points from the splash plays, and they're going to limit teams to not too many points. Take a look here at the strength of schedule. So they are 15th. Right in the middle of the pack, helpful that the Texans kind of underperformed, so they have the more lenient schedule. But if you're looking for a redraft defense, you never want to be the first one to be drafting a defense. But there are some other, bigger name defenses out there, which we'll get to. But if you can see the Texans falling to you, when it makes sense to be drafting a defense, I really like the Texans defense for redraft purposes this year. Moving on to number two, we have the Baltimore Ravens. So 2024, they finished 12th, so definitely not what they were being drafted at. But they're coming in with adding Jaire Alexander, which they acquired from the Packers, and then drafting Malachi Starks. That should be a great compliment to Kyle Hamilton there on the defense. In terms of people they lost longtime safety Marcus Williams and Brandon Stevens. So not the biggest of losses from a fantasy perspective, but definitely something to keep in mind. But looking at the rest of their defense, they have Travis Jones and Matabuke on the defensive line, who are beasts. They're really coming into their own there, so they should be racking up plenty of sacks. At linebacker, everyone knows Roquan Smith is an absolute monster in IDP. He's a really good linebacker in general, paired with Kyle Vanoy and Trenton Simpson finally getting some play time. In his third year. Then in the defensive back field, Kyle Hamilton, he's one of the best defensive backs out there. He's all over the field making huge plays. And then Malachi Starks, the new draft pick, should be peppered in there real nicely. But again, in terms of fantasy solid defenses, the Ravens being number two makes some sense. I mean, they have playmakers all across the field. Where I question things, though, is looking at that strength of schedule. The Ravens have a tough schedule coming in as the 24th hardest schedule in 2025. So this is one of those defenses that I think is going to be a huge name. Someone's going to overdraft them because, they have some nice pieces, but in terms of how I would handle the defense position. Let someone else reach for the Ravens defense while you continue to bolster your other spots on your roster, and then go for a slightly lower ranked defense or just stream them. So this is one for sure that I would not. I would not be drafting the Ravens defense, but if that's what you want to do, I kind of get it, but I would be avoiding them. Coming in at number 3 is actually the 2024 number 1 ranked defense at the end of the year, and that is the Denver Broncos. So in terms of huge additions here, Talanoa Hufanga, I have some misspellings here, coming over from the 49ers, that's huge. And Dre Greenlaw, another former 49er there, going to the Broncos. And in terms of key subtractions, PJ Locke, yeah, he was good, but he's not someone that I'm going to lose sleep over losing. So really, they're returning a lot of the big players there that made them the number 1 scoring defense. And as my counterpart Randy Johnson brought up in his article, which you should read, they weren't even close. No one was even close to them in terms of fantasy defenses, team defenses last year. So going through, again, their defense, Zach Allen, Nick Benito had a huge coming out year last year in terms of sack production, which is huge for team defense. Linebackers, they have Alex Singleton and Dre Greenlaw, again, just really solid linebackers. Shutdown corner, Pat Surtain. Now they have Talanoa Hufanga there, cruising the safety. Brandon Jones is really good. So this is a team that's returning a lot of the big players that made them the number 1 scoring defense. Now, being back-to-back number 1 scoring defense is difficult. It's hard for any position, so you don't want to chase that. But them being ranked 3rd here makes a whole lot of sense. Their strength of schedule, 18th hardest schedule going in. They're in a very tough division, which does not help fantasy-wise. But again, they're returning all the key players. They should be able to make splash plays all over the field. Decent strength of schedule. And then with Bo Nix, continuing his ascent with that offense being on the field more often than maybe they were last year. The Broncos defense is a solid pick. Again, these top 5 defenses, I would still say let someone else go there, but I really like the Broncos defense this year. Coming in at number 4, we have the Vikings out of Minnesota. This is your number 2 ranked defense at the end of the year last year. And kind of similar to the Broncos, they're returning a lot of the same people. So they added Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave on that defensive line, 2 big-bodied dudes that are definitely going to help things out there. And they lost Cam Bynum, which is unfortunate. He was a dynasty darling for us IDP folks. But again, not the worst loss in terms of people. So let's running through the rest of that team defense. Jonathan Allen, Harrison Phillips, Javon Hargrave, Jonathan Greenard on that defensive line. Talk about the ability to be disruptive game in and game out. Doesn't really matter who they're playing. That is a great defensive line. Ivan Pace, Blake Cashman, Andrew Van Ginkel, again, solid linebackers there, solid linebacker core, especially Ivan Pace. And then on the defensive backfield is sort of where we lose a little bit of shine. So we have Isaiah Rodgers, Josh Metellus, Harrison Smith, he's still going, Makee Blackman, Byron Murphy Jr. This is where, if there is a weakness on this defense, it is the defensive backfield. So could be exposed by giving up some plays, but you'd hope with this team that the defensive line is attacking quarterbacks at a rate that they can sort of make up. They can sort of make up for not having Cam Bynum back there. But returning all the players, again, the strength of schedule is a problem. So that's the 26th hardest schedule. Part of that is due to the division that they are in. The Packers are always very good. The Vikings are also very good. The Bears, they've made some improvements there. And then, of course, the Lions are, one of the best teams there. So you see that sort of in the Packers, if you're looking ahead, their strength of schedule. The division's really taking a hit here, here's the kicker, because if strength of schedule is just based off of the win percentage of the teams that they were playing in the previous year, this year. Here's the thing. Yes, there are exceptions. There are some blowouts, but typically those NFC North battles, those bouts, interdivision stuff is less high scoring because the teams know each other. They know how to stop each other. So I'm not that afraid of the division and the strength of schedule here as the Vikings, less so than the Ravens here, because I think the Ravens have slightly easier division. So I'm less turned away from that. So I would target the Vikings. Yeah, I mean, number 4 makes sense for me for them. But yeah, they're a solid team, solid team defense to go after. So moving on to the Eagles defense, coming in at number 5. They finished 7th overall in 2024. Their main addition would be in the draft with Jihad Campbell, but they did lose quite a few people from that Super Bowl team. So the ones I noted here: Josh Sweat, Milton Williams, a couple of big bodies and sack producers there, but they're returning just a bunch of really great players. So on that defensive line, you have Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter, absolute wrecking ball. Returning at linebacker, you have Zach Bond and Nakobe Dean. Bond had a nice breakout year last year, and Nakobe Dean, just given the opportunity, should be pretty good. They did grab Azeez Ojulari, injury riddled forever, but if he ends up being healthy, that does provide an extra boost in terms of producing sacks. Then on the defensive backfield, just absolutely star-studded. Rocking Quinion Mitchell, Reed Blankenship, Keely Ringo, Cooper DeJean. Cooper DeJean with the big play in the Super Bowl. But yeah, the Eagles defense being 5th could be a bit of a disservice. I know they are losing a lot of people, and as you can see here, they do have a difficult schedule ahead of them, as the Super Bowl champs might want to do, but they have the ability to rack up sacks. They have the ability to get those interceptions, even special teams. I really like their special teams. So Eagles at 5, this is where, you let other people be reaching for folks. And if the Eagles do fall down to be 5th for you for team defense, that is as close as a set it and forget it sort of defense you could have any given week. So yeah, go after them. I do like them. Yeah, fifth feels appropriate in terms of this ranking. But one thing that I want to note here at the halfway mark is the Fantasy Expo. So I'll be at the Fantasy Expo coming up in a month from now, but you should be too. You can ask me all about IDP and these team defenses while I'm there. So you should get your 2025 Fantasy Football Expo tickets at thefantasyfootballexpo.com. That's thefantasyfootballexpo.com. It's this August. It's the 8th through the 10th in Canton, Ohio. And check out the new fan packages. And you can join us and other well-known content creators at the NFL Hall of Fame and Village. I've been the last couple of years. It's a phenomenal time. You get to meet some of your fantasy idols. You get to talk shop the entire time, because here's the kicker. Everyone there is to talk fantasy. So you can talk about your hot takes, the people you're fading, all of your really cool leagues that you're in. It's a great time. Go to thefantasyfootballexpo.com, get your tickets, and I will see you there. All right, moving on to number 6. We have the Steelers defense. So they finished 4th in 2024. They had a couple of nice additions in Derek Harmon, Darius Slay, and Jalen Ramsey, the trade that just recently went through. But they lost Minkah Fitzpatrick in that same trade. So Fitzpatrick has always been a great defensive back for fantasy purposes. He was a huge splash play guy. So losing him does kind of suck in terms of the splash or the sexiness of the Steelers defense, but they still are very, very good. I mean, when you have TJ Watt, a dude that has the capability to rack up to 18 sacks in a given year, like that's absolutely massive for your team defense that could be there. Cam Hayward's still returning. He's great. Like I mentioned, Derek Harmon. They do have Patrick Queen, the former Raven linebacker, who is, again, very, very solid, great at making those splash plays. Peyton Wilson at linebacker had a encouraging rookie campaign. So seeing him return this year should see some nice things. And then, defensive backs, you love Joey Porter there at corner. Darius Slay, also very good. Deshaun Elliott, Juan Thornhill, and then, of course, Jalen Ramsey, who's replacing Minkah Fitzpatrick. So the Steelers are a team. I mean, Mike Tomlin loves his defenses. They're going to be hard-nosed. You have someone that can rack up a bunch of sacks in TJ Watt. They have the 23rd hardest schedule, which is fine. Again, that division is difficult there with the Ravens and the Bengals, and, well, there's the Browns. So they play the Browns twice, which is a benefit to drafting someone from the AFC North. But Steelers being 6, this is at the tier where I would start to think about drafting your defenses, because maybe not a set it and forget it, because I still want to avoid them when they're playing Lamar and the Ravens and Joey Burrow and the Bengals, but everyone else they're playing, the Steelers are going to be a really good defense for you. So draft them accordingly. Number 7, we are talking about the Green Bay Packers. Last year, surprisingly, they finished 3rd in terms of team defense. I know a bit of a lackluster year in the terms of results, playoff-wise especially. And it's tough when you have the Vikings and the Lions sort of go off, and the Packers finished 3rd in the division. But here we are. Key additions, through the draft, Edgerrin Cooper, and Javon Bullard. And they lost Jaire Alexander in a trade. Talking to some of my Packer friends, not necessarily, they might not put him as a key subtraction, but he's gone. But just looking at this team, defensive line leaves, I won't say a bit to be desired, but there's room for growth here with Lucas Van Ness, Kenny Clark, Devontae Wyatt, Rashawn Gary. Rashawn Gary has been good for a while, but has been waiting for the breakout season there for the sacks. Just haven't seen it quite yet. Vanessa is still young, so there's definitely room for growth there. But where they really are strong is at the linebacker spot. So Quay Walker, Edgerrin Cooper, Isaiah McDuffie. There are playmakers there that can be all around the field, can be used in many different ways. So that's really where you're going to be racking up your points with this team. And then on defense, or defensive back, Xavier McKinney, solid safety. Nate Hobbs, another playmaker that can be lined up in a whole bunch of different spots. So really where you're going to get your points from the Packers defense is with those linebackers being utilized all over the field and producing some big plays for you. So in terms of the team rankings, though, the Packers being 7th is a little surprising. I know they finished 3rd, so maybe I shouldn't be that surprised with this ranking. But I just see that 27th strength of schedule. The people they have to play in their division is tough. And I just don't see the playmaking ability on the defensive line to really warrant me drafting them 7. We're going to talk about the Lions next, and I'll say the inverse thing here with the Lions. So I would probably avoid the Packers defense. They're going to be solid, but you're going to be on the edge of your seat the entire time with them. Let someone else draft the Packers defense. Okay, coming in at number 8, we have the Lions defense, division rivals there. Last year, they finished 10th overall. In terms of key additions, I didn't see any additions that I would qualify as major, but the same can be said for subtractions. So Carlton Davis is gone. He went to the Patriots, number 9 ranked team here. But this is really great for fantasy purposes. Yes, I know they finished 10th last year, but we ranked them 8th, or ESPN ranked them 8th. So kind of similar return. But the main thing I'm excited about, of course, is Aiden Hutchinson. He got hurt, but he was on a tear at the beginning of the year when he was healthy, which of course you can't predict injuries. But he is one of those TJ Watt-esque players with the pedigree that he has, that he can go off for just 1 million sacks on any given game, which is enough of a boost for me to like them more than like the Packers, who don't have that kind of player. Now, who else do they have? Jack Campbell, highly drafted linebackers, can get more playing time, should look pretty good there. Alex Anzalone, he's maybe not the sexiest guy from fantasy or football perspective, from football perspective, but he's solid. Derek Barnes, same thing. Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph there and at the safety and free safety spots are beasts. They are so freaking good in terms of the splash plays. So with this Lions defense, yes, they have the 30th ranked strength of schedule. So there's only 2 teams that have a harder strength of schedule, but they have the playmakers to make it worth that gamble. You have the Aiden Hutchinsons of the world, the Brian Branch, Kirby Josephs. Like, there are playmakers all across their defense that have proven that they can make those splash plays and get those points, which is something the Packers just don't have. So my Packer friends are gonna kill me for this, but in terms of fantasy purposes, from a defensive perspective, I would much rather take the Lions with those studs than I would the Packers, who don't quite have it. Okay, coming in at 9 is actually my favorite team, the New England Patriots. Now, you can see through the 2024 ranks, everyone else is top 12. So why on earth is the 31st 2024 ranked defense in this list, top 10? No, it's not biased. I did take this from ESPN. Well, the main thing is the Patriots spent a boatload of money on their defense. They focus primarily on defense despite all of our offensive woes. So the main ones were Milton Williams there from the Eagles, Carlton Davis from the aforementioned Lions, and of course Robert Spillane. So we spend so much money on defense, just going through it. Our defensive line, Barmore is finally healthy, cleared from the heart clogs. So Barmore, Williams, Chris Tonga, and Harold Landry, just a bunch of consummate professionals, like actual real players with real experience. Of course, you have Keon White, who had a bit of a breakout year last year, but looks to build on that with, better defensive line play. And then linebackers, Christian Ellis, Robert Spillane, Anthony Jennings. Again, like they're not the sexiest of names, but in terms of what the Patriots defense was or has been the last couple of years, these are professionals that know how to play this game. And then probably the strength of the entire team defense would be the defensive backs. We went and got Carlton Davis. We have Christian Gonzalez, new All-Pro, who is just so freaking good. Kyle Duggar still around, Jabril Peppers, Marcus Jones. This defense is dramatically improved. Yes, spending in free agency does not necessarily yield results, but you can't say that we're trotting out folks that should not be in the NFL, which is massive. I think the main reason, though, that they are ranked in the top 10 is the strength of schedule. So one of the benefits of coming in last place in your division is you play the other teams that are last place, which is very helpful. So the third easiest schedule for the Patriots, all of these additions on defense, as well as, a real proper head coach in Mike Vrabel. I think that when you look at this, when I'm recording the same pod in a year from now, there's a chance the Patriots finish, top 5 just from the not giving up points perspective. But because of how easy this schedule was. Now, if we had a harder schedule, I think, we'd be ranked lower. But the additions here with the strength schedule, this is sort of that sleeper sort of defense that I would be prioritizing, even if I weren't a Patriots fan. But I think they're going to be a solid pick for you and your team this year. Okay, wrapping out number 10, we have the Seahawks defense. They finished 6th in 2024. Added some pretty nice names here. DeMarcus Lawrence, Ernest Jones, Nick Emenwari. Don't know how he was there. And only really lost Draymond Jones. So another team that just sort of added to their squad and didn't really lose. I mean, Jones is a big dude, but not a huge deal breaker for me in terms of the fantasy perspective. So going through their defense, DeMarcus Lawrence, again, huge. Byron Murphy, Leonard Williams, Jaron Reed. That's defensive line that can get after the quarterback, which is nice. On the linebacker side, Ernest Jones, grabbing him from the Rams is huge. Boye Mafe had a really nice year last year, kind of went under the radar. And then their defensive backs are so good. I mean, Reek Woolen had a huge year a couple years ago. Devin Witherspoon, the high draft pick last year, looks to be the real deal. Julian Love, Kobe Bryant. This is another one of those teams when you're looking for those sleepers where they have, especially with the 11th easiest schedule, they have all the pieces there to make a great streaming choice any given week, depending on who they're playing. But just generally, in terms of return on the investment, like if you can actually get the Seahawks defense at 10, I think they're going to be splashing with those top 5 weeks here and there. So another solid one to be aiming for if you can. But yeah, so those are the top 10 ranked defenses for team defense and special teams for the 2025 season, according to ESPN. So real quick hitters, for me, I would not be drafting a top 5 defense in terms of strategy. Of these top 5, I think the Vikings are the ones that I would especially sort of fade based on, just based on the upside, Vikings and the Eagles, the upside of the others. If you're going to drop a top defense, go for one of these top 3. I would, again, rather let someone else reach for those top defenses while I sort of take a streaming approach, which is sort of where these ones here, especially at the bottom of the list, are ones I would approach. Steelers are going to be solid. Packers and Lions. I mean, the Lions have the horses, so to speak, to be very, very good. They do have that tough schedule. But I like the Lions. I would fade the Packers, but then the Patriots and Seahawks, you're going to be able to get them at an ADP that is not breaking the bank. You have reasonable expectations, and I think they're going to have those splash weeks, especially when they play those worst teams because they have those better strength of schedules. So with that, I would like to thank you for listening to this version of the IDP Plus podcast. Yet again, my name is Matt Record, and I hope to see you at the Fantasy Football Expo in a month or so. Bye!
Thank you for watching the IDP Plus YouTube network. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Be sure to tap the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload new content.